if you'll indulge me, a little bit of the journey I'd love to explore of getting to Luther in Superman. I know we have a long way to go
Yeah,
in talking about that, but
yeah.
to contextualize for folks, I mean, look, we've talked a lot about kind of these big auditions you've been on over the years and these close calls that have come or not. This came relatively like just a year or two after very, very close call on Batman. So were you? Was that I don't know. I mean that's got to be a blow. You're so close to something that you know is going to be a really cool opportunity. Like were you reticent about going in again for another iconic superhero after going through the emotional whatever it was to almost get Batman?
Yeah, of course it's an emotional blow. Because your imagination doesn't know. You know, like you're aware on a practical level. You're like, I know that I'm auditioning, against Rob, and Rob's fantastic in that movie, and I think that was the right decision. But also, you get excited about the prospect. Matt's a fantastic director, and the script and everything. I was like, this is going to be a cool movie. I want to be part of it, and a brilliant character. So then, yeah, there's obviously a period of like, before you can, it's like a weird period where before you can get to the acceptance and like see the movie and be like, oh yeah, that works, that was the right choice, you have to go through the period of like, oh, what could I have done differently, why not me? Like, do you know, you run through all those things, obviously. And then was I hesitant about going in? I think under different circumstances I would have been, yeah, because it's a lot to put yourself through emotionally, and also even more so than, it's also weird now that this process has suddenly somewhat become public.
I know. Yeah. That's the weird part.
Because there's plenty of times that people go and audition for things and you never hear about it. You never know. And it's like, that's happening all the time. But now there's this weird thing where it's like, and it's only public for people that care. Most people day to day don't care about this stuff. But like, it feels weird then because you're like, oh, and it's one thing to have your failures. It's another thing to have them like publicly broadcast seemingly to everyone.
Not to mention it's happening like almost in real time. It's like these things like leak out and you're like,
well,
he's meeting on Friday, and it's like, what, you're in the middle of it. I can only imagine your perspective.
Adds an element of drama to it, I suppose. But that's also interesting. I mean, I remember, a week before we did the Batman test, I was driving in my car and I had the radio on, and they were talking on the radio about how Rob was going to be the new Batman, and I was like, it's not confirmed yet. I was like, I'm auditioning next weekend. I was like, give me a chance.
You call into the radio show, guys. Nick from London here.
Hey, it's me. So yeah, I would say I would be hesitant about going through that process again. But then at the same time, I think James Gunn's such a fantastic director. And I was so excited about what he was going to be building with DC and with Peter Safran that I'd spoken to him and kind of, I don't know, the idea of being a part of what they were building was exciting to me. And I think there was also an element of when we spoke of this idea that because they knew that I'd been through that process, that they kind of didn't necessarily want me to have to go through that again, which is very kind of them, it's caring of them. So there was kind of this element of them being like, hey, we like you as an actor, etc., etc. We kind of want you to be in this world. And so it was then actually quite a nice element of like going into screen test. It was weird because I literally finished shooting the order, I think, on Thursday, flew back to LA maybe the Friday, did the screen test for Superman Saturday, Sunday, then flew to Savannah on the Monday to start shooting Jura on the Wednesday. So it was like, in terms of like gymnastics, physically but mentally as well, of being like, okay, we finished shooting that, make sure you know the lines for these scenes for the screen test, and then you're going to run down to be with Clint and start that. That was a lot, but also it felt in many ways like a not a win-win situation, because obviously that's not how you go into those things. But I took an element of pressure off myself, I suppose, because I was like, hey, you're also just going in to see if you and James like working together and enjoy that process. And so it wasn't like, this has to be everything and right now. And, so that was kind of a better approach, perhaps mentally as well for me.
So do you have secret selfies of yourself as both Batman and Superman in your iPhone currently?
Yeah, I do. And Lex.
Amazing.
Maybe for Halloween I'll be Wonder Woman.